Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Scarecrow, and welcome to another Black Ops 3 In-Depth. Today we're going to be looking at the DIY 11 Renovator, added into Black Ops 3 supply drops in October 2016. Going into this review, I thought this weapon was going to be pretty straightforward. I wasn't too sure how strong it would be, but because it's not a weapon that I personally own myself, and I don't have much experience with it. You don't see too many people running it online, and it's just generally not a gun you come across, so I had really no idea what to expect with the weapon. But after I used it for a couple of hours this morning and really got to know the weapon and then looked at the stats, this weapon blew my mind for how good statistically and in-game it actually is. A lot of people might put this down to being a weaker weapon just because of the fact that it's a nail gun. Let's just think about that a second. Can we just appreciate the fact that we've got to a point in Call of Duty where home hardware tools are being used in online multiplayer for an FPS shooter, especially in Call of Duty at that. So yeah, let's just appreciate that for a fact. But all joking aside, the Renovator is an amazing weapon that we're going to be exploring today, and I gotta tell you, it actually legitimately surprised me. So I wouldn't be surprised if you guys found out something interesting you didn't know about the weapon. Before I go any further, I would like to say a huge thank you to BlueSolstice, who provided the account and the weapon for me to use this morning. His channel link will be down in the description below. I really would appreciate it if you go and check it out. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. First of all, the DIY Renovator, I'm just going to call it the Renovator, just for the sake of this review, because this gun, the title is not something that rolls off the tongue. The Renovator deals a flat 35 damage at all ranges. This is a kicker straight off of the bat. This is amazing. Like, I couldn't believe this when I saw the stats for this weapon. It does a flat 35 damage at any range, from like its minimum range to its absolute maximum range, 35 damage. So that means it's a 3-shot kill at any range. And I'm going to tell you this now, there is no range drop off, there is no minimum range, there is no maximum range, there is no trickery here. If you can hit a target 3 times, they are dead. There is nothing stopping them from dying. Headshot multiplier on the weapon is 1.4x, which is in itself unique because not many other weapons, I think there's only one other weapon in the game, which is the Brecci, that has this headshot multiplier, and every other weapon in the game usually has a 1.1x, whereas a 1.4x is really, really rare, but that in itself, it doesn't help out at all. It's useless at all ranges. It is so close to making the weapon a 2-hit kill, but it just misses out by 2 damage points. But that in itself, the headshot multiplier, is useless at all ranges. I still want to appreciate the fact that this weapon is a 3-hit kill at any range with no range drop off. The projectiles don't lose velocity or anything like that. Basically, the long and the short of it is if you can hit a target 3 times, they're dead. They will go down and stay down. The rate of fire is very solid at 517 rounds per minute, which is bumped up to 550 with rapid fire. So it's a respectable fire rate. There's nothing too amazing. It's pretty middle ground there. And I found that there was no situation where I thought that the gun fired too slowly or it couldn't keep up with other SMGs or anything else up close. I do want to point out though that the gun has no wall penetration whatsoever. The nails, so to speak, that it fires will not penetrate any surface. So if your target is behind a wall or behind cover, even plywood, you will not be able to shoot through it at all. The reload time is pretty average at 2.1 seconds, nothing too spectacular there. And it has 25 nails in a magazine, because that's what they are. You are basically firing nails. If you fire it onto a surface for a wall, you'll actually see that nails do hammer into the wall, and it is bumped up to 35 nails with extended mags. It has a sprint out time of 0.25 seconds, which is pretty much standard for most of the guns in this game, and an ADS time of 0.2 seconds, which is slightly faster than most of the SMGs. The recoil on this gun is there. Like, you do notice the recoil. It's by no means non-existent. You will have to control it again because it does seem to bounce between each shot. You can it kind of rattles and shakes a bit like the PPSH from my previous review. It does behave like you would expect of the gun, a nail gun, to behave. It does bounce and shake and rattle a bit, but it is manageable. I never found myself, you know, being too put out with the recoil on the gun. And that's the basic stats of the weapon, but it does have some extra quirks that I wanted to put in here as well. When firing this weapon, it does not show up on the minimap whatsoever. It does not need a silencer. It does not have a silencer option because it is silent all of the time. If the enemy doesn't have a headset or has no sense of hearing, then you could go completely unnoticed with this weapon. It does have quite a loud firing sound. You will be able to tell when someone's using it, but you will not be able to pinpoint them exactly because you do not show up on the minimap when using this weapon at all. I thought that was a really cool feature for it. Like I said, it has no wall penetration at all, and it has virtually no idle sway. It has the lowest idle sway of just about any gun in the entire game. It actually has, believe it or not, less idle sway than the M16, which was crazy. Like, I compared the two, and the M16 didn't move. Like, it has no idle sway, but somehow this gun has less idle sway, which is ridiculous. So if you are, you know, aiming down sight, or you're a camper, or you sit in a corner and aim down sight the entire time, I can bet you could stay there for half an hour and your gun wouldn't even move a millimeter. So that's how little the idle sway on this weapon, which is crazy. I mean, it gets to a point where it doesn't even matter how low it is because it's that low. That's how low it is. As for how I feel about the weapon itself, the gun doesn't really have much variation with the attachments. It just, you basically have the standard ones on there, but there's nothing too exciting in terms of attachments, so there's not a whole lot you can actually do with the weapon. An optic sight is not needed. The iron sights are really, really good and actually work really well with the gun itself. I found myself, when I was using a sight, that I found myself wanting the iron sights back because they just work so well with the recoil of the gun. So I'll definitely say that an ELO sight or any of the optics are not needed by any means. But of course, the kicker of this weapon is that you do have to lead your shot. If a target is running straight at you, or even moving slowly or standing still, then this gun will kill exceptionally quick. Really, it will. It'll down them before they even know it. But if they're moving or boost jumping, then the targets can be incredibly hard to hit because you will have to lead your shot, which, leading into aim assist and stuff like that, I'm not sure how that would work exactly with a controller, meaning it's probably a little bit harder to use. But on a mouse, I found myself being able to keep up with it really well. As long as you know where your targets are going and the direction they're heading, then you can track them quite well. It does take a little bit of time to get used to, though. Don't disregard the weapon immediately after a couple of games. Make sure you take the time to learn it and learn how far you'll have to lead your targets and how much the recoil will cause the weapon to bounce in your hands. And other than that, you'll have a very, very strong SMG on your hands. This gun is statistically amazing. Like, on paper, this is one of the best SMGs in the game. Like, it outshines just about every SMG in the game, not to mention most of the assault rifles in terms of time to kill and range. This is an amazing submachine gun. In my opinion, probably a bit too strong, and probably a bit too strong for a supply drop weapon. Other than the fact that you have to lead your shots and it does take some time to get used to. If you do get good with this weapon, then the payoff is huge. As for what class I would recommend this gun with fast mags, extended mags, and laser sight. I found that laser sight really does help out because the hip fire on this gun is quite poor. I found myself missing nearly every single shot that I took hip firing, but with the laser sight, it really tightened down the spread, and I was able to get 1 to 2 shots on target before I'd even aim down sight, which means that the target only needed 1 more shot. So a lot of situations, I was just in an advantage because I had a laser sight on my 3-shot weapon with amazing hip fire. So I found that a laser sight helps more than quick draw just because I can get shots off earlier. And of course, fast mags and extended mags just to keep me in the fight longer, keep me firing quicker and for a longer period of time. So yeah, that is my opinion on this weapon. It is amazing. I found myself loving using it. It was really, really strong and also a really fun gun to use. The fact that you're running around with a hardware tool in a Call of Duty game is ridiculous, but it doesn't take you long to get into the groove of this gun and realize it's actually a very, very strong weapon. The rewards a thinking player. You have to be aware of what the gun's faults are and how far ahead to lead your target, and once you master that, you have one of the strongest SMGs in the game on your side. So anyway guys, that is going to wrap it up this in depth. I want to say before the video ends, if you guys want to know where I get my stats from and where all this information does come from, it comes from the awesome guys over the DenKirson forums Marvel4. I always leave them linked down in the description below because the fact that there's someone in there willing to dig deep into the code and get this for us, despite the fact that Black Ops 3's year is over and that it's not the main focus anymore, the fact that they're still providing stats for the newer weapons that comes out is amazing, and literally the lifesaver of this series. We wouldn't have this series if we didn't have someone doing the dirty work that is going into the code to get these stats. So I want to say huge thanks to those guys, and if you guys would like to check out the stat sheet, it's always down below. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and I shall see you, beautiful people, in the next video.